Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montavilla Sewing Center, and today we're talking about the Baby Lock Verve. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take care of your machine. So to start with, you want to unthread your machine, and the book is going to tell you to turn off the machine and unplug it, but I like to have light where I'm doing it. So I'm going to push the lockout key right there, and that just means if I push on the foot control or push any other button, I'm not going to get the machine going, but I still have light. Okay, now we're going to start out by taking the foot off and taking the needle out here, and you use your screwdriver that comes with your machine. If you need to, you can rock your needle a little bit and the needle clamp screw a little bit to get that needle out because it's a very tight clearance. Now the tools that come with your machine to care for your machine are the brush like this, a longer screwdriver, and that's the one I use to take out the needle, and then a shorter screwdriver, and that would be the one that you would use to take out these screws here. And notice this screwdriver, both of these, have a wider tip than a standard screwdriver. I think that gives you a little bit more torque that way. Okay, and then we're going to take off the accessory tray, take that out of the way. Notice I put the needle in the accessory tray. Don't just lay it down on the table because it could get lost. You don't want to have that happen. Now, this part is really easy. You take this part off and you can easily take out your bobbin case, which is really nice for if you get a thread tangle and you don't want to take everything apart, you just want to take out that bobbin case, and that's easy. So taking out the bobbin case, you just lift it out that way, and then you can brush it out easily. Now, what about around the feed dogs? Because that's important if you sew something that's flannel, that builds up a lot of lint, that can build up around the feed dogs underneath the needle plate. So let's go ahead and take the needle plate off using this little screwdriver here. A little round one. And this round one, if you have a brand new machine and it's hard to take these screws off, you've got this here, and you can use a longer screwdriver to get yourself a little bit of torque on that. Or you can use an offset screwdriver, but this is a really handy little tool to have. And then once you get the screws off enough, you can just take them off by hand. Again, they're fairly short, small screws, so we're going to put them in my sewing basket right there to keep them safe. Take this guy right off of here, and that little fin was under there. Now, if you need to, you can lift up your presser lever a little higher, and that's going to give you more room. Here, we don't have much lint in between here, but it's a good idea every now and then. Now, when you clean your machine, you can clean around the bobbin area without taking off the needle plate fairly regularly, and I recommend you do that after almost every project, just to make sure. Do it more often than you think you need to, and that'll give you an idea of how often you need to clean around there. So, also, you can use your vacuum cleaner hose as you're brushing. Vacuum out the lint, that works great, but avoid using canned air. The problem I've had with canned air is if you spray it long enough, it starts spraying frost. So let's not use canned air. Just your vacuum cleaner or just your brush is just fine. We're going to put this guy back on here. Do it like that. Fit it on there really good. I'm going to find my screws, which I can find quite easily because I made sure they were safe. Start it by hand. These little screws by hand. Got a little arthritis in one hand, so it kind of slows things down a little bit, but that's okay. I know a lot of us do. We have some great tools here included in this machine, which makes taking care of your machine a breeze. Now, one thing I should tell you, notice I took the needle out. Needles do get dull after a while, and even if your needle is not bent or broken, you should replace it after every 3 full bobbins worth of thread that you use in your bobbin, because by that time, that needle has gone through the fabric enough that it's starting to get a little dull at the tip, and a dull needle is going to damage your fabric on a microscopic level, but you'll have weaker seams because of that. So, get used to changing your needle regularly. Make sure you use the correct needle for your fabric. For instance, if you're sewing swimwear, use a stretch needle. If you're quilting, use a Sharps or Microtex needle, it goes through that quilt fabric much easier. If you're sewing jeans, use a jeans needle. Now, for putting the machine back together, notice I put the needle plate on first before putting the bobbin case in. That's important because the needle plate actually has structures on the underside of it which help hold the bobbin case, this guy, in the right position. Also, your bobbin case, we want to clean that on all sides, making sure there's no lint there. Slide that in right down there. Now there's a little knob here, should go next to that flexible stopper. And there's 2 white dots. You'll see a white dot here and a little kind of an arrow looking dot there. They should be right pointing towards each other. And you can see the bobbin case is nice and flat the way it should be. Then we slide this guy back on. Notice also I have the accessory tray off. It's much easier to put this, take it on and off when you have the accessory tray out of the way. So, before putting the needle back in, I like to have the presser foot still off of the machine so that it's just easier to not accidentally scratch the end of the needle. We want to make sure our needles stay nice and sharp. Okay, now, we talked about this one here. This has a needle inserter that the end of the brush does, and you can use this to hold your needle. It's much easier than just holding it with your fingers here because your fingers can slide, but this is going to stay stationary. Okay, make sure that you have the flat side of the needle facing away from you. Start out by poking the needle right down there where it sews, and then bring it up right behind the number 6 that you see there. Tighten it by hand, and then get your screwdriver and tighten it a little bit further. I'm going to get right in front of that. There we go. It's important to have it screwdriver tight, and you can just slide that right down, because if you just have it finger tight, it could vibrate loose as it's sewing and the needle fall out. I've seen that happen before, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, and then we're going to put the foot back on. Now to change the feet, whenever you change the feet, line up the stitch hole in the foot with the stitch hole in the needle plate. Line those 2 up, then lower your presser foot and it goes right on. So that's basic maintenance on your machine. Of course, you can undo your lockout key. If you need to, if you have a problem with your machine that you can't solve, bring it in and our technicians are wonderful with their machines, but also you want to bring it in on a regular basis, say once a year anyway, just like you bring in your car for regular maintenance. You could bring in your sewing machine and it will run like a dream and last a good long time for you. So that's basic maintenance and how to care for your machine. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you have, give us a thumbs up. And if you have comments or questions, you can leave those in the area down below. We have lots of other videos on this machine and on other machines here on our Montavilla YouTube channel, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye.